All right, we're going to start today off with a question. And you're going to have to leave your answer down below in the comment section. You can do it while our intro music is playing. But now that the NFL draft is over, out of all the players in the NFL, whose stock is falling the most? Who are you looking forward to drafting just 2 weeks ago, but now you want nothing to do with? Put it down in the comment section, because today we're talking about NFL draft losers. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there, and you heard it in the opening, right? Today, we're talking about some losers. Some guys who were just kicked back at the crib watching the NFL draft with their boys, probably not with their boys because of social distancing, but they ended up finding out that their future replacements were being drafted, or guys to come in and take their touches. It can't be a great feeling for a few of these guys, and a lot of these guys had some fantasy football implications really affect them throughout the NFL draft. We got some quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and we'll sprinkle in a couple tight ends there at the end. So make sure you hit that like button. We're going to be covering a lot of people in a short amount of time. We're going to get right into it, but real quick, just a reminder, the 2020 Fantasy Football Draft Guide is available for pre-order on our website, thefantasyheadliners.com. One of the best in the business. You will not find more information for a lower price. Going to be more than 500 virtual pages of all things fantasy football to help you kill it in 2020. So if you're looking forward to that, head over to the website. If you're worried that there's the possibility that the NFL does not play this year, if the season gets canceled and there's no games played, don't worry about it. You'll still get the 2020 draft guide, a little bit of reading material for you here this year to get you through quarantining and chilling time. And then we'll also give you a 2021 fantasy football draft guide if you purchase it here and the season does not happen in 2020. So you're not out anything, right? You're still covered. Got you covered for a couple years if that were to happen. But now let's talk about a few guys who were just draft day losers here in 2020. Let's start off the quarterback position. This one may not be too big of a surprise for two guys we're going to be talking about. The first one, it's Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers. I mean, how bad was his NFL draft day, right? I mean, not only did he come into the NFL draft needing some weapons, right? We expected them to draft some wide receivers on the outside to really give Rodgers that opportunity to make a run here late in his career. It's not like there's some horrible team in the middle of rebuilding. They added Devin Funchess here in the offseason, but remember, he sucks. #never Funchess. And then they went on and didn't draft any wide receivers in Green Bay, where they're going to make a run at it with MVS and Alan Lazard, apparently. And if that wasn't bad enough, they also drafted his future replacement, Jordan Love, in the first round. I mean, this is an elite quarterback talent. A lot of people really high on Jordan Love, and basically brought in to learn under Rodgers here. But how long does it take? Does this relationship get strained in Green Bay? Do they move on from Aaron Rodgers, which sounds crazy, but it could be a legit possibility here in the future. Not 2020, but afterwards. And then we also know there were some needs on the offensive line. They lost Brian Bulaga. So, hey, maybe they used some of those early picks on offensive linemen, right? Nope, they didn't. So they're not interested in protecting Aaron Rodgers as much as they should. They didn't give him any added weapons, and then they drafted his replacement. I don't care if he was on the couch next to Danica Patrick. This is a bad day for this dude. It did not go his way. He is a draft day loser. What about Carson Wentz also? I mean, he had himself it was an off and on draft weekend, right? He was probably happy with their first pick. They got Jalen Reagor, wide receiver out of TCU, a very versatile wide receiver. They had all the makings, lined up for them to really rebuild that wide receiver group because it can't stay healthy. We know no more Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey. They kind of seem on the outs with him. A lot of injury with Deshaun Jackson, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. It looks like he's still a couple years. I mean, there was questions, right? And they had an opportunity to really rebuild this wide receiver core, and they didn't do it. Instead, they drafted Carson Wentz's future successor in Jalen Hurts in the second round. Now, don't be surprised if we see some Jalen Hurts this year, not coming in and taking the job from Carson Wentz by any means. However, he could be involved in a few packages that we see him on the field, kind of more of a gimmicky style quarterback that we could see here in 2020. However, moving forward, later in the future, he could be the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. They owe Carson Wentz a buttload of money that they can't really get away from. More than likely, they're locked into this guy for the next 4 years, and Jalen Hurts is about to get a 4-year rookie deal, so I don't really understand the thinking. They could have gone somewhere else in the second round, chose not to. Also had a need on the offensive line. a very good offensive line in 2019. They've lost Jason Peters. Dude was getting old. I get it. But they had a hole there at left tackle. They chose not to fill it early. Does that come back and bite them in 2020? They need to keep Carson Wentz healthy. A lot of people want to throw the injury-prone tag on this dude. He's had a lot of, tough times. I get it. He hasn't been 100% healthy. Not all entirely his fault, but when he plays, he has been playing great. Carson Wentz, though, in my opinion, kind of comes out of the NFL draft as a draft day loser. All right, real quick, before we get into running backs, something I got to share with you guys here real quick. There is no recovering from the embarrassment that you would feel if you got caught trimming your nether regions, fellas. Nobody wants to see you in that type of predicament. It's got to be close to the embarrassment you would feel losing your fantasy football championship to your 11-year-old nephew who's obsessed with playing Fortnite. Or even the embarrassment you would feel if you were getting undressed in front of that special someone just to find out that your man junk has bedhead. That's why you need to head over to manscaped.com right now and check out the Lawnmower 3.0. This thing's got a 90-minute battery life, a nifty little LED light on top, and a freaking 7,000 RPM motor. Plus, it's got something called Quiet Stroke technology. It's really called Quiet Stroke? It's got Quiet Stroke. How can you not love something with something called Quiet Stroke technology? You got to go check it out. Head over to manscaped.com. Get yourself the perfect package, fellas. Use the promo code HEADLINERS, all caps, at checkout and receive 20% off your order. It's okay. You can thank me later. But now let's talk some running backs. First running back up is going to be Kerryon Johnson, Detroit Lions, and he watched his Lions team draft DeAndre Swift, arguably the best running back in the draft in some people's minds, in the early second round. That's a lot of draft capital for them to basically say, KJ, peace out, we're not going to need you in the future. Now, yeah, they may start the 2020 season as a running back by committee in Detroit. Kerryon Johnson, as long as he's healthy, and DeAndre Swift will be involved. However, DeAndre Swift is an elite talent and will beat out Kerryon Johnson at least by midseason, whenever that happens to be here in this weird 2020 year. But don't forget, this is not a run-first team. There's not going to be enough volume for both of these running backs to be productive in fantasy football. They're going to throw the ball a lot. Even last year, before Matthew Stafford got hurt, he was on pace to throw for 5,000 yards. DeAndre Swift is a 3-down back capable of hitting a home run on every single play. He's an elite talent. I feel bad for Kerryon Johnson. Looks like his days are numbered with the Detroit Lions. Aaron Jones, they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. No idea what Green Bay was thinking in this draft. We had Aaron Rodgers for the quarterbacks. Now we have Aaron Jones. Maybe they have something against guys named Aaron. I have no idea. It was bad enough we had to deal with him splitting work with Jamal Williams. This dude had almost 20 touchdowns last year, and they drafted another running back in the second round. It makes no sense. Now, A.J. Dillon is a running back who could steal goal line carries away from Aaron Jones. That was his bread and butter last year in 2019. Now, obviously, he's not going to score 19, 20 touchdowns a year. I get it. But why even go A.J. Dillon in the second? The split in this backfield could be horrendous. We could see 3 running backs on a weekly basis all getting touches. Aaron Jones was being looked at as a solid RB1 coming into the season. I don't see that anymore. More low-end running back 2 at this point, but there's going to be risk involved with Aaron Jones. I'm probably going to have him ranked right around that 15 to 18 range, and just somebody we need to watch here throughout the offseason. Last guy on this sheet is going to be Marlon Mack. They drafted Jonathan Taylor in the second round, and if you go out and you make a pick that early in the NFL draft, you have to expect that Jonathan Taylor is going to take this job at some point. Now, Marlon Mack, in a contract year, becomes somewhat expendable. I expect him to be involved in this offense early in 2020. However, if he struggles at all early, look for Jonathan Taylor to take over this role completely. He's definitely capable of handling all 3 downs. You also have Nyheim Hines still sprinkled into the mix. Marlon Mack was a pleasant surprise for a lot of people in 2019. I'm not expecting the same thing here in 2020, not to mention they also added another wide receiver to the group, Michael Pittman, a red zone threat, a big athletic wide receiver that's going to take away some red zone looks. It's just overall not a good draft weekend for Marlon Mack. He lost a lot of value and becomes very, very risky here in 2020 fantasy football. Damian Williams, another guy who saw his stock fall after the NFL draft. They went out in the first round of the Kansas City Chiefs and drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU. Kind of shocked a lot of people, especially there in the first round. Now, Damian Williams probably didn't find it too hilarious that they drafted Clyde Edwards, but I mean, it's definitely going to be something that eats into his touches, right? Will he kind of be more of a change of pace back? Does he just come in at third down every once in a while? I mean, he's not really going to need to, because one of the biggest strengths of Clyde Edwards-Helaire is his pass-catching ability. Maybe one of the best pass catchers in this draft. It's rumored that Patrick Mahomes wanted him in this offense. If that's the case, they're going to utilize him. He's going to be a great fantasy asset. Definitely somebody to pay attention to here in future videos. But Damian Williams, his stock is definitely falling. Ronald Jones, definitely somebody who I looked forward to putting on this list. Why? Hashtag say no to Rojo. I'm not a Ronald Jones guy, and he's not a Bruce Arians guy either. Now, if you watched our live coverage of the NFL draft, you know that I was very upset when Tampa Bay passed on J.K. Dobbins. I didn't think they were going the running back route, and I thought I was going to have to cave in and support Ronald Jones somewhat, but luckily, in the third round, they brought in Keyshawn Vaughn, and a lot of people have no idea who Keyshawn Vaughn is, but one of his biggest strengths is pass protection. That's something where Ronald Jones is not good at all. Keyshawn Vaughn is a home run hitter. He can play all three downs, and now he's a Bruce Arians guy. I'm not saying he's going to come in week one in that Tampa Bay offense and take every touch out of that backfield. However, a lot of the Ronald Jones truthers were a little bit disappointed when they heard the name Keyshawn Vaughn called on draft day, because they realize with any type of competition in this backfield, more than likely Ronald Jones is not going to be on the winning side of it. He was a draft day loser. Also, I put James Conner on the list. And this may be somewhat controversial. Some people may not like this pick. However, he really has an inability to stay healthy, and they drafted Anthony McFarland in the 4th round. If you don't know anything about Anthony McFarland, Google him and watch a video or two before you hate this video. The guy is like a diet version of Dalvin Cook, a one-cut running back that can take it to the house in a heartbeat. Plus, James Conner is in a contract year, right? Pittsburgh isn't really known for keeping a lot of running backs later in their career. And we know that James Conner struggled with those injuries. This could be one of those things where they want to see what they have with the young kid so they can make their decision in the offseason whether they're keeping Conner or not. In my opinion, that drops his stock here for 2020. Moving on to the wide receiver position now. First guy up, I got Michael Gallup. I mean, we know the Cowboys lucked out in the draft and they went with CeeDee Lamb. Arguably, some people are already going out there and saying that the Dallas Cowboys now have the best trio of wide receivers in the NFL, with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper. Also, rumors that Amari Cooper will move to the slot, which is great for Amari Cooper owners because the guy could see a lot of volume there in the middle of the field. So what happens with Michael Gallup? A lot of people had high expectations coming into 2020, myself included. But now with the addition of CeeDee Lamb, that's just another wide receiver added to the bunch to take targets away. Now, don't get me wrong, these guys are all three capable of having 1,000-yard seasons. It would not surprise me one bit if that were to happen. However, it's just not as safe as it was maybe 2 weeks ago. Now Michael Gallup's going to have to split those targets on the outside with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is an elite wide receiver talent that is capable of doing amazing things on the football field. He's a hybrid clone of Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins. It's going to be a great offense in Dallas. Plus, don't forget, you still have Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield, and they're going to get him the ball close to 250 to 300 times throughout the season. It's just going to limit the potential volume that could go Gallup's way. That's why I have his stock trending down. Also, Tyler Boyd. This one's somewhat, head-scratching. Also, they drafted T. Higgins, and we know that Joe Burrow is in town now, but is A.J. Green healthy? For this year, it's possible. Now, we saw it in the past. When A.J. Green was healthy, Tyler Boyd would do pretty well, but then they went and brought in T. Higgins. What's going to happen here? We know they're going to have to establish a run game with Joe Mixon in the backfield to take some of the pressure off of Joe Burrow with T. Higgins, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd. It's just going to be kind of similar to the Dallas situation, right? Maybe not enough targets to go around to have all these guys be fantasy football productive. It's going to be a question mark where Tyler Boyd coming into the year was definitely trending up. After the draft, got him trending down. T.Y. Hilton, another guy who I have somewhat trending down at this point. Now with Phillip Rivers in town, that could limit some of the deep balls that we've seen T.Y. Hilton get in the past. Paris Campbell being back and healthy, they added Michael Pittman here in the 2nd round. That could take away some of the red zone looks that used to go towards the way of T.Y. Hilton. There may be a little bit more of an emphasis on the run game, right? We just talked about Jonathan Taylor being drafted there, more touches behind a great offensive line. It just opens up more question marks where in years past T.Y. Hilton was arguably the only weapon on the outside for the Colts. You can't say that here in 2020, so I got his stock trending down. On to tight ends now, and the first one we're talking about is Noah Fant, Denver Broncos. Now, if you've watched this show for a while, you realized that I was a fan of Noah Fant just a couple weeks ago, right? I was really expecting a breakout year from him, but at the time, he only had Courtland Sutton, Melvin Gordon, and Phillip Lindsay to worry about in that offense. Now, after the draft, they added Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, more wide receivers to the mix for Drew Lock. All that's going to do, water down the potential targets that could be going the way of Noah Fant. He is going to become more big play dependent, which is fine. He's capable of making those plays, but it could cause you to have more gray hair or bald a little bit during the season because it may not be consistent on a week-to-week basis. The addition of Melvin Gordon, do they pay more attention to the running game? Do they really focus on that running game to open up the field for Drew Lock, to give time for the rookies of Jeudy and Hamler to get open and let those routes progress? Does Courtland Sutton continue to take away those deep 50-50 balls and the looks in the red zone? More questions now for Fant, so I got him trending down more as a low-end tight end 1, high-end tight end 2 going into 2020. Jimmy Graham, I like to put him here on this list, but he's kind of been a loser for a while, right? I mean, Chicago drafted Cole Kmet in the second round after signing Jimmy Graham here in the offseason. So not only do they bring Jimmy Graham to Chicago, where there's now 9 or 10 tight ends on the roster, I haven't checked as of late, but then they went and drafted Cole Kmet, arguably the best tight end prospect in the draft, in the second round. Now, yeah, there could be some opportunities for them to take, more 2 tight end sets out onto the field, but I mean, he went to Chicago, right? That alone is enough for him to be on this list because the Bears are a dumpster fire, in my opinion, at this point. There's news that just came out that they've signed Ted Ginn. That signing makes no sense. It's just a whole lot of head-scratching going on in Chicago. Jimmy Graham going there and then drafting Cole Kmet. They didn't utilize Trey Burton in this offense whenever he was healthy. They haven't utilized a tight end in this offense in quite a while. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So Jimmy Graham found himself as a draft day loser also. All right, so those were a few of our draft day losers here for 2020, and I could have put more guys on the list. There may be guys that you're thinking about right now, but that's where the interactive part of this show comes in. Leave it down below in the comment section. Who do you think is a draft day loser in 2020? Put your comments down below. Let's talk about them. Maybe there's more guys out there that I'm not even thinking about. Maybe they're on your favorite team and you have some insight on how that offense is going to look. Maybe you disagree with some of these. That's fine. Just put it down in the comments as to why. All we're trying to do is to develop the best possible scenario for ourselves to be successful in fantasy football in 2020. This is not a I'm right and you're wrong scenario. It's all subjective opinion, but that's what we're trying to accomplish right now, is to make sure that our draft plans are set to go here for the 2020 fantasy football season. So make sure you hit that like button for me. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We have at least 3 videos a week coming out right now, and if you really want more than that here in the off season, you can head over to Patreon. We have content coming out there all week long, and there's tiers from $1 up to $20. You can find as much fantasy football content as your little heart can desire. But we greatly appreciate your support. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week out there. Look for the upcoming football videos. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.